Good science, by definition, allows for more than one opinion. Otherwise, you merely have the will of one man, which is the basis of cult.
If it's not in frame, it doesn't exist.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
I'm funny how? I mean, funny like I'm a clown, I amuse you?
Where you been?
Drunk.
Wendy, darling, light of my life.
What is your one purpose in life?
To explode, of course.
I like death with sex. How about you, Casey? You like sex with death?
Yeah, so fuck up and die.
Space Farmers.
Space Farmers.
I feel bad because I already know that this episode might be a little bit longer. And I also already know that there's going to probably be some people that are upset. I'm going to upset some people.
It's almost like I'm actually kind of interested in what I'm going to say. I'm not even quite prepared.
I'm so conflicted. So,
yeah.
Without further ado, this is the Cult of Cinema Knowledge podcast. I'm Levi. That's Jordan. Today.
What's up?
So we're doing big blockbusters for the month. We're just doing the big boys box office rumblers. And we started with the poll Star Wars, the original Star Wars, episode 4, A New Hope, if that's your sexual preference. If that's how you want to do it. So that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about
Let's get it started.
Star Wars.
Did you write a synopsis for this? Because this, I mean, it's almost kind of like, I'm glad you did. This has been this like Star Wars. It's wild that we're doing this movie. Like,
I know.
I never thought we would get here. This is essentially Marvel adjacent, and we've been vocal about.
I still say
not being a fan.
I know.
Of
I'm
Marvel.
gonna say at the top that as much as I'm gonna shit on this movie and this series, I prefer this to Marvel still.
And that's because I like. It's not quite hard sci-fi, but I do enjoy the sci-fi.
There are good
leaning.
Well, this
super sci-fi.
This is the epitome. I think I feel like this is the genre. I always wondered why they had lumped sci-fi and fantasy together, like sci-fi fantasy as a genre. And I was always like, because me and you, we didn't really care for fantasy. We're sci-fi nerds. And I was always like, I don't fucking care about fantasy. I want sci-fi. Why is it always sci-fi fantasy? This movie is a straight up sci-fi fantasy. Like, it is. There's fucking wizards and everything. It's just set in space. And it's got spaceships and blasters, which is fine, which is great. So anyway, I did write a synopsis only because, I looked on, I wasn't going to, because I literally wrote it just a minute ago, just now.
Oh, yeah. That as that's Cult of Cinema Knowledge fashion.
That is.
I feel like that's what we do.
That's our tradition.
I'm usually I'm finishing it up. If I have not started it the hour before we record, I am finishing it up as we're starting.
Well, I looked at the Letterboxd synopsis and I was like, I'll just read this. But I looked at it and I'm like, this sucks. This is not even what it's about. The Letterboxd synopsis was like, they got to rescue Princess Leia, and I'm like, that's like an after effect.
Dude, no, right. No, that's literally what I was reading too. When it's like, when it's just like they state who everybody is, and then like the main conflict is saving Princess Leia, and I'm like, that's not even close to the main conflict.
Not even the main conflict. So,
which I'm actually happy because that's kind of how I remembered it.
Yeah,
is she was the main conflict, and now I'm like, oh fuck, it's a lot deeper. Anyways, continue. Go.
So here's my synopsis, and it's gonna seem probably a little dismissive and disparaging slightly, but I am skimming over a lot of stuff, and also it's mostly good-spirited, so keep that in mind. So a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, the Galactic Empire captures Princess Leia, a prominent political figure for the rebel forces. In the battle, Leia records a distress message on her two droids and sends them to the nearby planet of Tatooine. There, the droids are captured by local scavengers and sold to some farmers. The nephew of which is Luke Skywalker, a young man with a miraculously convenient lineage. In another burst of luck, the droids find Obi-Wan Kenobi, their previous owner and the intended recipient of Princess Leia's distress signal. Obi-Wan tells Luke of the Jedi, a series of space wizards that have been driven to near extinction, and warns him of the dangers of the Empire. So his aunt and uncle are killed, but it's no biggie. Luke goes up with Obi-Wan and the droid to deliver the full message to the rebels, a message that can turn the tides of war. Also, Luke's father was a Jedi Master, and Obi-Wan takes Luke under his wing and shows him the way of the Force. They hire Han Solo, a bad boy smuggler, to take them to Alderaan to deliver the message. But when they show up, they find it completely destroyed, wiped out by Darth Vader and the Empire using their super weapon, the Death Star. Having flown straight into an enemy fleet, they are quickly captured. But it's cool because they escape pretty quick and find Princess Leia almost immediately. They fight their way off the Death Star. Obi-Wan dies or disintegrates or whatever it is the Jedis do, and the rest of them escape back to the Rebel base. Darth Vader's plan all along. They go over the message, which are details of the vulnerability of the Death Star. The rebels, including Luke, because apparently he's an expert fighter pilot all of a sudden, mount an attack on the ship. It's a success. They destroy the Death Star just in time, Vader escapes, and the rest live happily ever after.
I mean, it literally, like, next to fireworks ending, it's basically that. Like, everyone's clapping and they get medals.
They get medals.
But
yeah.
it's wild. I think this movie strikes a decent balance between sci-fi and then, like, kind of Muppets movie. You know, like, it's got some, like, childlike elements to it. But
Dude,
I don't feel like
Muppets,
it's marketed.
Watch the third one. I was watching the third one.
I think that's kind of what happened. And
Muppets full. It's full.
Dude, what I've been thinking
Army of
about
Darkness.
is right. Kind of what Army of Darkness did, huh? Or what what Evil Dead did. But it's wild to have like a show oh my god, there has to be a show in the history of film to get us to where we are now. Franchises and everything, all of that. This is it.
This movie is it.
It's like
it had to exist.
It had to exist.
If this didn't do it, something else would have.
And there were other movies before this, clearly that tried.
Sorry, I just ran my foot over with my chair because I'm an idiot. All right, go on.
Smooth sailing over there, huh, bud? But anyways,
Not
this
even
had to
drunk
exist.
this time.
We watched. I know, right? Maybe that's your problem.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, you're too hydrated. But we watched Planet of the Apes recently. Go listen to that pod, and that we kind of talk about how that was like that started franchising in like Hollywood, but this solidified it. This movie came along and it created what you know now for merchandising.
Yeah, Planet of the Apes and Jaws was pretty much the reason why we decided to do blockbusters this month anyway, because it's like Jaws was like the first blockbuster, but then we were talking about Planet of the Apes as like the proto-blockbuster. But then along comes this movie, and this movie does the whole franchise thing and the whole cultural phenomenon thing. But to be fair, this movie feels very much like, I do feel like it's a little bit ahead of its time, but it's because, like you said, it's the first.
Yeah. But even then, it's just
in
like,
a way that
I
it
think
feels
it's
like an
because
80s movie, but it's a 70s movie. You know what I mean?
Right.
I always
Right.
forget that. I'm like, oh, this was made in the late 70s. That's pretty good, because it's like, for what it was doing. Like, you got a lot of movies like that in the 80s.
Right. Well, I could just strike the balance. I think back in the day, sci-fi was either A, underfunded, so it was campy, or B, so hard and serious that it kind of alienated its, like, you know, its viewership. It totally skewed
niche. Yeah,
to like
definitely
all cool and to like
you had like Star Trek, which was very popular, but it was like very much like that quote unquote budget. Intellectual and like they leaned on strong writing to try and get around the budgetary constraints, which obviously Star Trek is a whole other animal as well.
Yeah, and I'm thinking like even like 2001, which is like
that's the epitome of like hard sci-fi. To this day, that's still like it's like a hard movie.
Still considered, and it just 2001 shows you how you can create space, because there's a lot of like movies before it that have space, but it's like it looks like a flat 2D photo that's being filmed, where 2001 has really rich textures. Yeah. Just like this film. Definitely. I mean, I feel like you are in outer space here, and it's done really well. But I wanted to say real quick. So, What version did you watch? You're the one you uploaded, right?
No.
Onto Plex?
I didn't.
So,
I didn't watch
dude,
that one.
the one uploaded to Plex was a remaster.
No, they
had
all
to been
are.
like.
They all are.
Is that it? So they don't have the original doesn't exist anymore,
Doesn't
huh?
exist,
Theatrical
dude.
release. That's kind of what I assumed. I didn't read that
I'm sure.
as fact.
I wonder if you
but
can find it. I didn't search too hard for it, but apparently, yeah, it's like very like.
dude,
They didn't want it. They just erased over the old ones because I watched the one on
That's
I watched the one on Disney
so
Plus,
brutal.
which is essentially I'm pretty sure is the same one because
It's gotta be.
it's the Blu-ray release, the 2011
Yeah.
Blu-ray release, which
Yeah.
is the 1997 essentially is when
I'm-
because they remastered it in 1997 to coincide with the upcoming release of the prequels and all this shit, and I feel like that is the worst thing about this movie because on its own I went in trying to watch it because I haven't seen this movie. Let's go back a little bit. Let's take a breather.
Because is this the first? We usually like to open up.
No,
is this the first time you've seen this?
definitely not.
What are your thoughts? And I think this might be second time, maybe third max.
It's probably my
but
third.
Honestly, I think it's only my second time. But it's like a testament to the actual movie itself and its cultural phenomenon. I remembered like everything about it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which is wild,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, surprisingly.
That's how come when I saw the new CG, it was disgusting and I was like confused. But anyways, we'll get there. We'll get there in a minute.
New CG is a relative term too, because holy
True,
shit.
true. Yeah, true. There was just the fact that they did that anyways is like
gross.
it adds nothing. It like really takes everything away from the show. But anyways, I'm getting ahead of us
No,
here.
we'll get on that because it's like, yeah.
What were your first
I've
thoughts?
seen it as a kid a bunch of times, a handful of times, and thought it was fine. And then I watched it. I think last time I probably watched it was like high school or something, and I was like, this is fine, but I don't like. And then the more the series went along, I was like, I really just don't like this series as a whole. And then I became an ultimate hipster. I didn't like Star Wars back before it was cool to not like Star Wars, and I thought it was just fine, but I didn't do whatever. But so coming back to rewatch it, I get in the argument because people are like always fucking sucking Star Wars dick and Marvel's dick every time they learn that I like movies. They're like, oh my god, have you seen Star Wars? The new Star Wars movie? Have you watched fucking Mandalorian or whatever? And I'm always like, I always got to go on a rant about fuck the mouse and all this whole shit. But this time I went in with fresh eyes and an open mind. I did. I was like, you know what? I'm going to give this movie another chance. I'm going to try and imagine what it was like to see this in its time period. I'm going to try and forget about the prequels and forget about George Lucas and forget about fucking what the giant corporate money-making machine it is now and think of it as the like blooming sci-fi big boy coming on the scene and blowing everyone's socks off. And I sort of could get it. You know what I mean? It had a lot of charm.
Did.
I
came in. Yeah, I came in with like. So I came in expecting it to be those. Okay. That's the thing. So the funny thing is, 100%. So the funny thing about those CG scenes is they literally add absolutely nothing.
They're just like establishing shots mostly.
That's why I'm like I guess it's like you can kind of forgive it because it's not like they didn't add a completely new character per se and like explain it. But
though,
who'd they add?
I mean, okay, I'm pretty sure Jabba the Hutt is not in the original one. He is.
No, is.
No, I don't think so. No. I don't think so, dude. I mean,
I know Victoria said he was, but
there's some Star Wars nerds out here because they said they talk about him obviously, but that scene with Han and him was a deleted scene because they were gonna create his model with stop motion, but they never did. Right. So Jabba the Hutt was never in it because you never see Jabba the Hutt because I just watched all three of them, and you never see Jabba the Hutt in person till the third one, which that's the iconic where Pizza the Hut comes from. You know what I mean?
Classic, yeah.
The way he looks is like he's a big floppy gross slob, and you hear him, but I don't think you ever see him.
Oh my god! So dude, that CG was okay. Well, that was the scene that like, I'm like, I can't. I mean, you can't forgive that scene. That's so bad. And not even like CG. It's just the fact that like they just did that. I don't know. That's wild now. I don't know. It's kind of weird to think about, like, coming back and changing your movie so drastically later in life, and then but erasing over the past. That's the part I think that bothers me the
If
most.
you wanted to make a new version, that's fine. But
Sure.
you leave the
Yeah.
other one, leave it as it is, especially since it's such a cultural phenomenon and it has so many fans.
Well, I'm sure there's someone out there who has like a
There's
laser
that.
disc or
Yeah.
or
Oh,
VHS or
definitely.
something. You know?
I mean, there's those.
Sure, yeah.
How many fucking? We've all seen that South Park episode where they're talking about. Well, I hope so anyway. But they're talking about, like, when does art, you put it out in the world and art doesn't really become yours. It's not yours anymore after a certain point once you put it out, and it belongs to kind of like everyone. And they're talking about, because this, they did an episode like when this happened. Yeah.
With Indiana Jones,
Well,
right?
they did it at first
Or
when
that's
he
that-
went back, because they went back and they're like,
Right.
they added CG to the first episode of South Park, and they're like, we wanted to have an expensive spaceship come in, but we had to use paper because we couldn't afford it. But now that we can, that's our original vision. You know what I mean? Just ripping on George Lucas, and I just gotta say, I fucking hate George Lucas.
Yeah, we can
despise George
we can
Lucas.
we can agree on that. I think I've just what he became. He became the villain.
No, dude, he is
He was-
everything wrong.
I mean, sure.
With
Yeah.
with like, I don't know. He's just a good poster boy for what I hate about the film industry.
Yeah.
He to me,
Well, you got to lump in Steven Spielberg then too, because they're literally
well,
they
Spielberg.
go hand in hand. I mean, Spielberg has his integrity, sure, if you want to get there, but
He
dude,
does.
they're
No, here's
They're
the
pals.
thing.
Go hand in hand, man.
Spielberg took. I feel like it's like that episode of 30 Rock where Jack Donaghy makes what's his Green Zone, and he like takes him under his wing and does this thing, but then he goes totally rogue with it. And because I feel like he took George Lucas under his wing and was like, okay, and then it's like George Lucas is like, I want to make movies like my friend Steven and be like a big hotshot director. And so he made a couple movies, and then he made this one, and it was a huge hit. And then so he never really made anything ever again, other than the prequels. But it was just like, oh, Star Wars is his cash cow. He's not a filmmaker. He's in it for the cash, and he always has been.
he always has been.
He sees Steven
I
Spielberg.
can't believe
is an
I can't believe
artist.
I can't believe I'm defending George Lucas right now. But the fact that he stepped away from directing is actually pretty like good for Hollywood and just cinema in general. And he went to technical production. So it's like, he did sound design, and he has this whole like LucasArts studio.
Yeah.
And that branched off and created a lot of fascinating things, but he really did stay like he basically just created two franchises and then just kept to those. He has his Indiana Jones, and he has
George Lucas had
Star
fucking
Wars.
nothing to do with Indiana Jones.
No, I know, but he's part of it, and they wrote it together, right? The first.
I don't think so. I mean, maybe I could be wrong.
I'm pretty sure they did, because it was shot like what 82 or something, right? And so I know that they wrote it together, but who knows,
Really?
credited and whatnot. Yeah, I don't know. I was reading. Oh my god! So I was reading something where they released this movie, thought it was going to be shitty. So George Lucas and Steven Spielberg, they vacationed. They went like to Hawaii or something, and they didn't even go to the premiere of Star Wars because they were like, oh, it's going to tank. We made this like silly puppet movie in space. And so they left, and then it was like a huge success. But while they were in Hawaii, they workshopped Indiana Jones. And so, anyways, they've been together working on it. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like he's more like behind the scenes, and then he's worked on that project. I don't know. Yeah, it's like it's wild because I feel like maybe we're a little unqualified to get into Spielberg and George Lucas's
I guess he
like
helped come
history,
up with the story. Yeah,
because they go
story by I don't know. I feel like story by
Sure.
credits or bowls.
I get it. Well, no, and it's so funny because
It's like some guy walks in the room. He's like, hey,
I think
I had a coolest dream last night. This
Right.
this dude's getting chased by a boulder. Make that a movie, And then the writer's like, all
Yeah.
right, thanks for,
But-
and then you'll take all the credit.
No, I think George Lucas, he is someone who like I would call like a poser. He's like a director that came out, made something cool, and then like dropped out of the game, had no more artistic direction, and it's like,
he got lucky because he saw like his friend. He wanted to be cool like his friend Steven Spielberg, who Steven Spielberg actually like does have some talent and has some creative vision, especially in his early days as a director, but also like a Hollywood director within the system. But like, he's like, it's a sweet gig, George, and George's like, I want to be it. And then he did it, he got lucky, and then he fucking banked on that the rest of his life, and now he's a billionaire because he sold that to Disney.
Yeah.
I don't know. This movie on its own is fine though.
But let's reel it back. Let's reel it back. Star Wars. Well, and that's kind of the funny thing. Like he see, I have never seen THX 1138.
I've seen like a couple scenes from it, but I do want to watch the whole thing though.
Right.
Because American Graffiti is pretty good. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah, American Graffiti's fine. Yeah,
it's okay.
I remember liking it. I saw it in high school. So.
It's like a cleaner 50s version of Dazed and Confused.
Dazed and Confused. Right, exactly. Yeah. It's that whole template of like The Outsiders and
Dazed and Confused for Mormons,
Yeah. But, it's cheeky and it's fun. And so with Star Wars, we're talking about the 1977 Star Wars A New Hope. It is fun. I don't know. It's like I get it. I'm like I'm an adult now and trying to avoid all the context and how big this franchise is.
That's the thing. I was trying to separate it from the baggage.
I love my number one thing I think is amazing is the world building.
100%, dude.
There are so many characters in it that are like super unique, and they're campy, but it works really well. It's like how it was shot. It's like it's nice that it's dark. The cantina, is classic. You can't you can't get around that scene without can't talk about this movie without that scene.
I think that's why I'm so angry, is because this movie has like, not even just this movie, because on its own this movie is pretty good. It's a pretty good starting point, but it's like this series has so much potential because it's like I think the world is great, and I think the art design is really really cool and really unique, and I really like that's what's been built upon it. So I'm glad now that it's like we're kind of getting this explosion of like other Star Wars properties, because it's like you're finally getting to see, because truth be told, if you haven't figured it out already, I don't give a fuck about the main saga, the Jedi Luke Skywalker saga. Like I think they're fine, but it's just like, honestly, the Jedis are, I'm like sick of hearing about it. But that's why I think Rogue One is probably my favorite. Favorite Star Wars movie.
So I
want to see more shit in the universe for sure, and we're getting more video games lately, which I'm into. So I'm there.
I've only ever seen the like quote unquote original 6, the like
original
1
6.
to right 1 to 6. Yeah. So I've seen the first 3 that came out 70s 80s, and then the 2000s early 2000s ones, and so that's as much as I've been immersed in this.
Yeah.
But I know a lot about it. I know that it's like the universe and canon, all the books that are out, and like The Mandalorian got my attention. I am
actually gonna probably watch that now that I'm like
baby Yoda fatigue.
I'm soaking in the Star Wars, because like I said, it's like the first one I was like, that's fine, but I was rubbed. I couldn't let the baggage go because of all the remastered scenes and the weird CG and I couldn't let that go. But then I watched the second one, and there's hardly any of that. And the second one's very good. And so I'm like, okay, I'm in. I'm on board. You know what I mean? Yeah. And the third one is like pretty goofy and dumb and has more of that again, more stupid CG that's unnecessary. But it's because George Lucas stuck his big fat dick in it again. But his tiny little shriveled dick. But
either way, don't even. Yeah, I mean, you don't need to body shame him. He's just unoriginal and has very little talent. I don't know. The things he wants to put in there are like fucking nobody. It's just that's what sucks is like he has no one to stop him and say, don't do that. Like maybe reel it in and try to ground it, because this original movie is pretty grounded.
Yeah.
And it's like you can see all the little seeds that were planted, and then I actually think that like the what are they fucking called? The prequels, you know,
Yeah. Well, it became
the
like
2001s
it became self-important because it's like this became
I think-
so huge,
yeah.
so important to so many people, which is I think
Right.
obviously
and
the
they
most
did a great job. They
inspired
did it
so many people.
It's actually kind of unique to have like so many, to have like a huge prequel set come out later. It's usually like one movie will be a prequel, then they'll do some sequels, you know, like that. It feels pretty calculated and planned. It's kind of wild to me though that there was such a huge gap. I actually wonder what that history is. Why there's a gap from like what is it? 80, you know, it's got to be like fucking what?
It's like 83 to 99.
83 to 99. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a huge gap for like not having any movie properties. And it's probably because he was setting up his studio, George Lucas, and you know, focusing on
They were
other
making a lot of
things.
video games in that time, which you think is
Right.
you know, Star Wars is perfect for video games because it's like it has so many, and I think that's why it became so popular about this is because what makes it so good for video games is that there's just kind of so many elements that work for so many things. You know, there's deep world building, there's like cool fighter scenes in space and on the ground, cool blasting scenes. So it's like you got first person shooters, you got fucking side scrollers, you got RPGs, you got all this shit. But like the fact that there's so much of those, there's kind of something for everybody. And I think that's why this became so popular, is because it's like it's just a classic hero's journey story, which you can't really go wrong with. And it's a fun setting in a unique sci-fi fantasy world that's got a little bit something for everyone. Like it fucking came in, did what it did, above average, and it fucking exploded. And I feel like they just didn't know what to do with it, especially George Lucas. So it's just like he stepped away. They made the second one, which is even better, I think. And then so it's like this became such a phenomenon, and so I don't know why he was just like he had to go back. He's like, no, I've been stewing on this prequel story for so long, because it's like there's so many books. I mean,
That's the thing.
Shout out to Thomas. He's the biggest Star Wars nerd I know.
Oh, see, he should be on the pod then. He should have been here, because it's like I kind of need someone.
probably
I feel like
screaming at me.
I feel like yeah, exactly, dude. I feel kind of out of my depth because I'm like I can talk about the movie we have now, but then it's so hard to talk about this contained movie because like on its own, it's pretty rich and it has a lot of history. Like there's people who've just written about it a lot, which is fantastic. But it's like as this movie goes, it's super basic. It's like, I mean, the pacing is kind of trash. But that's fine. It's a 70s movie. It's like wild that it's like 2 hours and 10 minutes or something.
Yeah.
And you can feel every minute of it. It's like there's, you know, I'm enjoying what's going on, what's in front of me. It's like it's cool to see something. I'm like, oh, the scope is there. But then I'm like, okay, they're just shuffling in the fucking desert, dude. I'm like, all right, get out of the desert. We're cool. We're done with the desert.
Yeah.
And they're on the desert. Then they're on the ship. And I'm like, okay, cool. They're on the ship. And then it's like, okay, you're just shuffling around on the ship, dude. You're taking so fucking long on the ship.
Yeah, dude. I was. The pacing is weirdly fast and slow.
And slow, right. And there's no like the music. You know, there's no music. But clearly, it's like
it would quickly be like, oh, okay, now they're doing this thing, but the way they're going about it is very like. Slow?
Yeah, it's
I don't know.
It's weird. Yeah, it's weird. It's like I think the scope's there so it keeps you entertained, but I'm just like to think about the things like critically, I'm just like it's like it's shot well, but then it's also pretty stale when it comes to pacing. And the editing is funny too because it's swipes, dude. I love it.
I love
it's
swipes.
so cool to see that. Yeah, like it's like wild to be like I haven't really. Because most movies you watch,
dude. I miss a good swipe.
Right. You don't.
That's a nostalgia thing for sure. I think. It's
swipes weren't really used. Like even back in like the '60s and '70s, just in film history, you didn't really use swipes too much.
The height of the action adventure movie that was so popularized by these guys, Lucas, Spielberg, Zemeckis, all these guys in the '80s. They use their swipes, man, and that's I think that's like what popularized it. And it's like they were kind of a fad, but I say now you only see them like stylistically, but let's bring them back.
Right.
You know?
Or you see them like they're used ironically or to kind of
as a
to give
joke.
you that like
Yeah,
that
or to
sense
be
of
like a
nostalgia.
nostalgia trip. Because you'll see it.
Right.
I've seen episode 7, the first of the newer ones, Force Awakens. Yeah, it was fine. I don't know, it was fine. I'll probably rewatch those, and then the show. But
I know we were thinking
they
about
have some
like
of those.
we were thinking about going through it, but I just don't know if I can. I don't know if I can stomach like
Check the second one out, maybe if you got it in you.
Yeah,
It's fine.
Yeah, we should because see that's the thing. It's watching
It's
this
got the
movie. I
best-
kept
it's got the
waiting.
best
I was like,
direction.
yeah, cool. Because I was like waiting for like certain scenes, but I'm like, oh, they don't go on Hoth in this one at all.
Yeah.
It kind of like it's fun to see the worlds and like it's just cool to see them build this universe.
It
But
surprises
in this
me-
movie, it seems a little fast. I don't know.
It
That's
does.
mine.
Well, it surprises me how little is actually in the first one that you associate with the series. Like, there's no Yoda. There's no like.
He doesn't
spoiler
use.
alert,
He doesn't.
Darth
Yeah.
Vader is his dad. You know.
But you don't do that. And like he never uses the Force like super effectively. He uses the Force to like talk to his mentor, which is, that's pretty much the most he uses it for. It's like he I don't know, because in the second one, right, doesn't he use it to like get his lightsaber back, and he's a little stronger, right, because he learned from Yoda.
He goes and trains with Yoda and all that.
Trains Yoda, yeah. And so it's kind of cool to see like the little seeds planted for his growth and stuff. But Skywalker is like he is the most boring. Luke is the most boring part of the whole show.
He really is. It's too bad because I mean like I think that's my biggest problem fundamentally with like the screenwriting in the first one is it's like it's fine, but it takes us 20 minutes before we even meet Luke, and he's just some fucking boner kid that happens to just be like, it's just, there's so much conveniences for everything. I'm sure there is loads of lore in some book that explains why the droids are on this planet, and then Obi-Wan is also there, and it's just like, Luke Skywalker's just some kid, but then it's, he's actually the fucking son of the ancient Darth Vader Jedi Master bullshit.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure there's
fine.
some way that he
It's
was like
fine.
in a bassinet and he was like taken down in some like escape pod or something crazy. Which I'm sure that's the thing. And I bet you it's like I bet for like even just like a more casual fan, they probably know more of that lore, which is like which would really help. I feel like in a show that like kind of leaves a lot to your imagination, because I was wondering like why is it is convenient. You said that in your synopsis and I loved it because it's like it totally is like a lot of this movie is like, well, that's very convenient, and maybe it kind of plays into it if you think about it. Leia probably knew maybe that Obi-Wan could be on Tatooine, maybe perchance she heard a rumor, so she sent the droids down there, maybe, and that's probably what it was. Maybe I missed that, but anyways, it's like. There is like deeper meaning to it, and it can
stuff I don't know, so that's why I blow it off.
Right.
But just as the first one,
Yeah,
that's,
it works.
That's what I was trying to be like. As the first one on its own, no backstory, no nothing. This is the first Star Wars thing ever to exist. How does it measure up? You know what I mean? And I'm like, it measures up okay.
Well, we got to talk about a movie that we've done a pod on way back in the day, I believe, is Dark Star, which
We did.
Dan O'Bannon is like that's the sci-fi I'm talking about. I like my sci-fi with a little more edge.
Give me a little
That's
edge,
how come,
baby.
That's how come I like this Star Wars. I was actually surprised that there was more edge than I remembered. I think I kind of just assume I relate it to being like more for kids, but I was like, it actually is kind of like everyone's a little rough and tumble, and it's like kind of sterile, and like it's thematically it's a little more like adult than I remember. But then I mean I think that's probably why they
intergalactic war, which is interesting. Like
right.
That's an interesting. You put us right in the middle of this conflict, and that's smart.
Yeah, and it
out the
flowed
get-go.
pretty well too.
Yeah.
It's like I like it was nice, but it's actually that's how come it's done so well. It's like you just have it's such you can see these people in silhouette, like you can see all the bad guys and you can see the good guys. It's like the divide's there, and you have your people to root for. And like, dude, that the Darth Vader's like entrance is really dope. It's like super iconic, and so I respect it. That's the thing. It's like upon watching this, I'm like, okay, I really like it more. but then I can't. I don't know. It's just as a whole, I'm like,
Fun thing that I realized another thing that the first one didn't have that came in the second one that I was like, oh shit, that wasn't in the first one, which I always thought it was that the iconic Imperial Death March, the Darth Vader music, the that wasn't in the first one, and then it showed up in the second one. I was like, oh shit, there it is.
Yeah, and then that's kind of one thing I was saying too is a little flat. Is like the music in this is like weak. It's like literally just that one, the theme song, and then it's just kind of played in different versions throughout the movie.
We talked about John Williams a bit when we talked about Jaws, which I think is probably my favorite John Williams score.
Yeah,
but I don't know, something about John Williams is an interesting dude. Well, I don't know anything about him as a person, but his music is like simultaneously like perfect, but also like it's just too bubbly slightly for me. Then I'm like, I almost wish I'm like, oh man, this like almost gives it like it takes the edge off. Which I guess I'm a giant edge lord and I will like a little edge. But it's probably perfect for what these movies are. You know what I mean? Because it's like, imagine this movie. I can imagine it like scored a little bit darker, cut a little bit darker, and being a totally different vibe.
It could, because I mean, there is some like there's dismemberment. There's there is there. I mean, it's like
it's real.
There's a lot of
real high stakes.
And,
I mean, they fucking blow up an entire planet, man. Like those are
and that's
higher
cool.
stakes than that. Yeah.
Do you know this movie? This movie gives me like a lot of. I wonder if they were like into. Like anime structure. It's kind of interesting, like watching anime nowadays.
I don't know enough about anime in the fucking 70s though, you know.
I know that's true. Yeah, it probably wasn't quite the same. So like anime might have been influenced by Star Wars because Star Wars was such a huge influence.
Yeah.
But it just I don't know. It gives me a lot of like.
Well, this is some other sacrilege too, but Pablo and I always say like, and I think I don't know, maybe you. We've always said, like, this movie is one of those movies, we do call them our Star Wars or our Beatles things, where it's like, we think they're fine, and we think, it does what it does okay, but it's mostly important for the influence it had on its collective medium, because without Star Wars, I can't even imagine what the film landscape would look like. Like, this movie had such a dramatic, like... Not only just, like, the types of movies, but, like, filmmakers themselves. Like, from Kevin Smith to fucking Seth MacFarlane to, like, everyone had some... There's like, a Star Wars parody and everything. There's a fucking... Like, these movies... There's a reason why it's the most popular series, like, in the world. Because it's like they shaped fucking generations and continued to do so for better or worse.
I mean, it's kind of interesting though. Just a quick search though, like 1977 movies. We've got it's like it's weird. You have a lot of the same structural like hero's journey, and then you pretty much have all your like your action movies and your horrors and like Close Encounters.
No, if anything,
it says that was 77. Is that really 77? I thought that was 80s, but anyhow, so it's a Close Encounters. You kind of have your sci-fi still, but it's rooted in more like it's grounded.
Like it was
in
perfect
reality
timing because we've talked about this a little bit before, where it's like in the 70s you got like the resurgence of more like grittier artists like film. Oh, I mean it started in the 60s, but you got like people doing things a little bit off the books. Like you have that different golden age, Scorsese coming in. Making things like
look what else came out. 77 was Eraserhead. Why couldn't that have changed the whole landscape?
Can we imagine? I want to imagine a world. It's like
where Eraserhead was the
reality,
biggest.
where Eraserhead was as popular as Star Wars.
Dude, Rick and Morty's got to make an episode about that or something, man, because it's like that would totally exist as like
you get
just being
so many people that just like got tattoos instead of like Jedi and the Force is in you. It's just like in heaven everything's fine.
Yeah. Like people are just wearing that hair for Halloween.
God, fucking Eraserhead was 77. That's wild.
77, I know, dude.
That's what I'm saying. It's
everyone's just got the baby stuffed animal.
Like,
but
movies were getting kind of whack. like breaking the mold, being kind of crazy. And then this movie
Yeah.
came along and was like, okay, we're gonna take
Well, I
this
think
super fun, accessible sci-fi. Like it really
That's-
was just like,
That's what we're seeing. We're seeing we've always had the extreme corners of that niche, that really, extreme movies, and then we always kind of had like the like lower budget kind of, simple movies. We never had like a mid ground, and that really is like what we got with these like young 70s directors is like kind of a nice mid ground on what we see nowadays. It's it's really cool to see that.
It's
history.
unfortunate because this, again, I'm happy now. As much as I dislike the state of Star Wars as a series, I haven't watched the most recent two, or in the mainline series or whatever.
Well, and Mandalorian's the one I kind of want to just jump into because I've heard such good things.
I've heard
and it's like
good.
I love the Western aspects, like the actual like Western film genre aspects of it, and the like samurai film genre that they've adopted.
Yeah.
I really enjoy that. So it's like I'm kind of like, oh, that'd be fun to get into Mandalorian, but I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
What were you saying? You were.
Oh, I don't remember.
Gonna keep going. Well, dude, I wanted a fun fact that's kind of cool.
Yeah, lay it on me.
That large creature on Tatooine, when C-3PO is walking through and they separate, and there's that huge skeleton.
And the desert
whatever.
dunes.
Yeah, in the dunes, and it's like really cool, and you're like, oh, what is that thing? Well, that was actually built, and
I hope
it's
so.
still.
It'd be weird if
still,
they fucking found it.
Oh right. But it's like it's not like CG, or it's not like forced perspective where it's like a, because when I was watching it, it's kind of got that forced perspective, just
these
painted
movies,
backdrop,
and it's beautiful because these movies use a lot of miniatures. They use a lot of like matte paintings, which I appreciate that
they
tactile
hold up. They
analog.
hold up.
Most
Dude,
of them do
it
really
holds
good.
up. No, it holds up so much better because it's a
So
real
much
thing
better.
that's there. It's not like CG that like can age. It can't age. It's a thing that exists, and you're looking at it. So it's like even though maybe your eye can tell like, oh, that's a little. It looks skewed. It doesn't quite look real. It's like your brain fills in the gaps and it looks beautiful. That's my thing.
It fits its own logic, but when you throw in, CG that's like now at this point is horribly aged and horribly unnecessary and slapsticky.
Right.
Just to fit the slapsticky.
I'm trying to even think like it would be like, I don't know, it'd be like remastering a song with just kazoo in the background. Like take any song you love and then they're like, nah, we needed a kazoo drop
just
here.
Do a remix of it and then like ban all the old ones.
Yeah. But anyways, that large prop that was built still exists to this day. It's still there.
Oh, in the desert?
It's in the
That's fun.
It's in the Tunisian desert, dude. It's fucking cool. They used it in the 2002 one of the versions, episode 2, and then they used it in Mandalorian. Or they took down one of the creatures that is that skeleton in the Mandalorian. It's kind of fun. I'm like, okay,
that is kind of
that's
fun.
cool. That's like
I like the world, man, and honestly, I want to play. I want to play more of the video games. I'd like, as much as they all have their problems too. It's just the fact that it's like this franchise is owned by just giant corporate overlords. It's just so hard for them to take risks.
That's the thing.
It's just everything's so safe.
That's the bummer.
And
right.
basic, because it's like honestly, it's like back in the day, it kind of was a risk. Like it was following all the formulas. But it's like there's nothing wrong with following the formula so long as you do it right and you do it well.
I think that's why the prequels have softened in people's eyes. I feel like there are more people who enjoy the prequels for like what they tried to do, But anyhow, I don't know.
I directly blame the prequels for the death of film.
Yeah, I mean, really though, for the death of what Hollywood created, but.
No, I mean as like actual film medium because the first one was the first big movie to be shot all on digital. And it shows. Like I don't know if you've watched it, but it's just like you can't remaster that, dude. It does not look good.
Nah.
Well, it's all it's like all green screen and digital. It was like one of the first movies to do that. Again, somewhat pioneering, needing to do this stuff. Someone's got to do it.
And it was gonna exist. We've talked about this before on a movie. I think we talked about it on like Assassination of Jesse James with the Coward Over Ford.
Yeah.
Because like Deakins shot it, and it's like he talks about how he only shoots digital now, and so it's kind of interesting that like digital of course was going to come, and it was going to have its rough patch or whatever.
For
Because
sure.
nowadays digital is like 100% seamless, done right, and so
Yeah.
it's like, we've
Yeah,
hit that. I'm
you
excited
can
to see
only
what
really
it is.
tell the difference when you're like see something that's specifically like a specific
Yeah.
type of film, and you're like, "Ooh, this is shot on film," and only
Yeah.
if you're a big nerd like us,
Right.
because it's like I'll say, "Oh, I think this movie shot on film," and then I'll look it up, and I'll be like, "It was," and my wife's like, "What?"
Yeah, yeah.
Who
No,
cares?
exactly, dude. The stop animation in this movie, the Star Wars 1977.
Yeah.
The stop animation of the 3D chess or whatever is so beautiful.
Cool. Yeah.
I love stop animation so much.
See, I love the miniatures, dude. I love the design of all the ships.
Yeah.
And like the Star Destroyer ships and the Death Star. Like, it's just a cool
Yeah.
design. And the costume design, like, from the get go, I imagine watching this as a kid in 1977, going to the theater as like a fucking 11-year-old boy or something, and just seeing those stormtroopers come out for the first time with their laser blasters and just seeing those giant laser guns and the sound effects and just being like whisked away. Like, that's magical. There's something magical about that. And I appreciate how iconic that is. So it's like, there is something about this movie and this series as a whole that it like entrances me. I'm just mad because I feel like it's not lived up. It hasn't reached its potential, because it has potential. Like, I feel like this entire, like, I want to see the perfect, for me anyway. It's totally subjective to me. I want to see the perfect Star Wars in-universe medium that's like fits to like what I think it ought to be.
It's Denis Villeneuve's Dune. Can I introduce you?
Yeah, right.
That's actually watching it though. That was kind of the vibe I got. Is like,
Oh, this is
I was
definitely.
like, oh man,
If Star
Like-
Wars Dune inspired, that's a sci-fi
Yeah,
inspiration.
and that's
for,
the thing.
for so much.
I think Dune inspired Star Wars, but then Star Wars put it to screen, and now that is kind of the screen adaptation. Yeah.
If you know what the perfect movie would have been is if you split the difference between 77 Star Wars and what was it, 82 or 83?
Or-
Dune, Lynch's Dune.
Yeah, maybe 86 even, honestly, but yeah.
Split the difference between those two. Rein in Dune a little bit and give it more of the structure of Star Wars. And you have the perfect sci-fi movie.
Yeah, I know. We do a bonus episode about Dune, and I think you can go listen to that. It exists somewhere.
I'm
But
pretty sure it's on our Patreon.
Yeah, you can go listen to it on Patreon, everybody.
I do. About
But
the OG Dune. And I like that movie.
do you have any
Yeah, I got some
Reddit
Reddits.
for us? I'm actually I didn't check the Reddit to see if people posted.
There's
that.
not much. I'm surprised for a movie of
Yeah.
Star Wars. There's only 2. So I'll say. So I don't know if this is Il Hastega or 2 Hastega. Says it's so tragic to me that the original theatrical version is almost unobtainable. This movie is really impressive and charming when you view it in a vacuum without the context forced upon it by 45 years of installments. Couldn't agree more, because it's like,
Yeah, perfect.
and then Responsible Bat 658 says Luke was able to hit the Death Star target in the trench because he had been flying through canyons and hitting womp rats in his T-16 since he was a kid. He was made for this moment, the Force working in mysterious ways to prepare him. Now he's in the trench, but even though he's got the skills and even has the voice of his mentor guiding him from the astral plane, he's saved by his friend Han Solo despite all those skills. Luke can't do it alone. He needs help. It really is great writing. To which I don't know if I agree with that statement.
I mean, yeah, I mean that scene in particular, sure, I understand. I can see your. I just feel like when it comes to like stakes, the stakes weren't very high to me. It's like I don't know.
They were high enough, but I just think
Yeah,
there was some weird bits. It would be better for his character, but that's the thing. It'd be better for Luke's character to succeed and do it on his own, even though when his first line is, "But I wanted to go to Tashi Station and pick up some fucking power converters or whatever," and he's like a whiny little kid, and then now he's I feel like they could have done a little bit more to bring us to that point. To be
I know, and
he's
there's like
the
literally
he's the
like
best starfighter I've met. You know,
No,
just like
there's one scene that establishes the fact that like he's a bootlicker and he wants to go work he wants to be in the army.
Yeah.
You know, and he talks with his dad or he talks with his uncle about that. And then I guess 2 scenes technically, because when he shows up, he meets his friend who's made it into the fleet, and he's like, oh, I'm finally here. I get to be in the fleet. And he literally no remorse. He's like, I'm so happy I get to be here because my entire family, my entire roots are destroyed. Everything is
that's
gone.
what bugs me. And
So,
having watched
yeah,
the
yeah.
two sequels right now, he's way more conflicted about who's my father. What was my father like that I've never even met? Can I kill him? Blah, blah, blah. Once he finds out he's Vader. But it's like, he didn't give fucking 2 passing glances for the skeletal corpses, the burned out husks.
Yeah.
Like, they're literally skeletons, which is like
They are.
pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Of his aunt and uncle, he's just like, oh no.
Nope.
Well,
He like
okay,
literally
Obi-Wan.
he like shrugs. Yeah, he shrugs and goes, "I'm in." Like I'm like,
You
it kind
son
of
of
almost
a
like
bitch.
it is just so much like it is that it's like so convenient. It's like everything's so convenient. But then it's a hero's journey, so it kind of has to be like
Yeah.
and then this happens, and then this
Fine. I
causes
just think it'd
him
be
to go
better
on
if
this
he had
journey.
like a soup. I feel like I remember him having more of like a Superman, or not Superman, Spider-Man, like Uncle Ben type. Like
Yeah.
he's really like, oh, my uncle.
Me too.
Blah, blah, blah.
Me too. I thought he cared about his uncle, but he
But
just
it's
complained
Obi-
the whole
but it-
time.
Yeah, yeah. It's all Obi-Wan, which I just gotta mention because I don't get it at all. But again, maybe there's some in-lore thing I don't know. But what was it like to see this in 1977, and then just see Darth Vader chop at Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then Obi-Wan Kenobi just disintegrate? Like, is that what happens? Because I
Yeah,
was like,
is
is he dead? And then I'm
No,
like, okay, I think
yeah.
he's dead. What? Why?
No, it. I remember it in my head
Is that
being
is that
a
how
lot more
Jedis die?
important. Right. Well, it's almost
When
like
you get more of a
it's-
reaction out of Luke, he's like, no, Obi-Wan.
Yeah. Well, and you're supposed to. I'm assuming you're supposed to just like, you know, be comfortable with the fact that they get to choose when they like die. Essentially, like he can ascend, and now he just lives in the ethereal plane of like.
I was really confused
brain.
by it because even Darth Vader was like, "Huh?" and he like
No,
pokes his.
I noticed that.
He's like-
I noticed that when he like swipes through it, and then and he's just kind of like standing there,
pokes
like
it with his
he's-
foot. Like-
yeah, he's almost like, oh, he's like, maybe he just like was like, I needed to see that gore,
I
like
know.
you're my, and then it just watching this now, it plants the seeds, but then the prequels, like I'm thinking about, scenes in the prequels, and I'm like, this movie, it's like. So, the prequels are so intense for how little happens in this movie,
Right.
And so it kind of like doesn't balance itself out as like
Well, Darth
the larger
Maul gets,
scope.
if I recall, gets chopped in half at the end of the first one, episode 1, and he doesn't disappear into a cloud of farts. Like I don't know, what it is. He doesn't have a pile of robes.
But that's what I'm saying.
But
I
Yoda
think
does.
that
Yoda dies
Yeah.
and just vanishes.
maybe because it's good people get to choose to live inside of your brain tumor, and they can go and they can speak to you in your mind.
They just become like a legion.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
That is what happens
They
when you're on
become
the good side of the Force.
yeah, they're an AM radio or
Where's the
something.
neutral side of the Force? It's always the good or the evil. It's like I want to meet the
Right.
Jedis that are like morally ambiguous.
Well, dude, that right there. Okay, we're like you've already mentioned Kevin Smith briefly, but we have to get into Clerks. It's so funny what this movie has influenced. So many great scenes in movies
Everything.
that I like a lot more. Like Clerks is one of my like favorite movies of all time. It's super influential for me
Same.
on being a director and or whatever, just for being into film.
Being
period.
being an independent
And-
artist.
Right. And they have a conversation in that movie about the Death Star getting destroyed and the fact that there's like a bunch of independent contractors working on it. And so it's like the Jedis or whatever what are they called? The Starfleet or whatever. They murder millions of people or
Rebels,
at least thousands. The rebels
that's in,
murder thousands of people.
Because that's the thing I don't like about the third
Yeah.
one. It's like a rehash. Because in the third one, they're building another
They're building
another Death Star, so
Star.
it's under construction. Which
Right.
that's what they say. It's like the first time, it's like, you're killing a bunch of baddies,
Yeah.
but it's the size of a moon. So like you're killing like
Right.
a fuckload of baddies.
No,
That's
but
like dropping a nuke.
But you're gonna tell me that there weren't like
Like nurses.
any children, any nurses. There weren't any people
No, that's what I'm
on
saying.
that
It's
ship.
like-
It was
it's like
just
dropping a
all
nuke
just
straight up.
virile, just strong men that were working that.
faceless
Yeah,
evil
face-
stormtroopers only.
Yeah, right. It's like we can like I get like that we can just strip their humanity down because they're quote unquote evil.
Yeah.
But it also is kind of funny to just be like, I don't know. It would be kind of cool to get more of like straight up just like political drama Star Wars episode.
You
You,
should,
know?
you should really watch. I'm gonna rewatch it. I'm going to rewatch it. So maybe we'll do like a bonus or something one of these times. But I'm gonna rewatch Rogue One.
You know, you told me about it, and Victoria likes it. Or well, she doesn't.
I
Like
liked
that
it
much,
because it has nothing to do with Jedi's. There's like I think there's like one lightsaber for like a
no,
minute.
and it's the gap between.
Yeah.
Like it's like the scrolling, so that scrolling text is really cool.
Yeah.
So it's like the scrolling
iconic.
text that explains, basically that scrolling text is like the synopsis or the plot for
that's the
Rogue One.
closest.
So that's pretty like interesting.
Yeah. Well, it's the
I
closest
wish
to
we
the
got more.
version of my Star Wars that I have because it is just a hard boiled like it's just intergalactic civil war. It's just people doing skeezy things for this rebellion group against the fucking fascist empire, and it's cool. It's cool that way because it's literally just that, and it's much more grounded in that way and just uses the universe to kind of propel it. It's not like there's not this weird. I don't know. I think the Force for me, and this is just a personal taste. I think the Force is just kind of hokey, man. I don't know. Like it works.
Oh, I like it though. Like I
works.
like the. I don't know. I guess it's just I like the
It works, but it's-
the mentor aspect in it and
I
like
do.
learning and then like
The powers are
it's-
cool.
It's also
just,
religion stuff.
Yeah, I mean, but in this universe, obviously, it's real. You know what I mean? But it's like
Right,
essentially not like our religions. Am I right?
Yeah.
Suckers. But it's like I don't know. Something is just like it's just so convenient, and it's just like the reverence in which they treat it. They're like, it's the Force. And I'm just like, okay, everyone just calm the fuck down, okay, with the Force. Like, we get it. It's like,
Yeah.
You're all holy to the Force. I don't know. That's just me though. But it also seems like it's smart as a writer's move because then you're like, so how does he get? Okay, the Force. Yeah, the Force tells him.
Right.
The disembodied voice of his mentor. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah. You can kind of bridge
Convenience.
that gap instead of it. Yeah, and it's fun to have that be like
fun.
a huge spiritual pool that everyone can like
It's-
dip into in case they need that
Well, this-
extra push.
This movie's not the kind of
But-
movie. It's not like this one that's gonna it's gonna change my beliefs on the things. But it's like it's got heavy enough themes. That's what I'm saying. It strikes a great balance, and that's why it's so popular. It's because it's fun and but it's not completely devoid of thought.
Yeah.
It's,
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Like
They
a
take
lot of
they
other
take a
movies.
nice.
And like
Yeah,
some of
take
the
the
other
next-
ones in the series. You got a money minute for me, and I'll go ahead and pull up. Did Travis leave a voicemail? I'm sure he did.
He did. Yeah. Travis got one on there. Yeah. I mean, it's 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 budgeted and rumored around 11 million,
Okay.
but I think it's less than that. Kind of hard to find because this is such a huge scope, and because it was remastered and everything, kind of hard to find exactly if that's the right number. I feel like it might have been
they
a
burned the
little
original.
less. But really though, yeah, it's like that those records and how they kept records and stuff back in the day is harder. But anyways, 11 million is what is like on the internet. And then it was the first movie. This is the real number because this was a historic number. It made 775 million, which is bonkers.
That's a fuckload,
It's the
especially
first
for the 70s.
1977. It was the first movie in history to break 500 million.
And by
So-
a pretty good margin too.
Yeah, huge. And it like Jaws did 400, so that's like, so it's
that-
kind of cool because I thought
Back
Jaws
then,
was like the
that's
first.
fucking huge.
That's huge. That's wild. I mean, that's the reason we have Star Wars now to this day,
That's
And it's like with Jaws you just didn't have. That right there. We kind of already like nailed why this movie works so well, is it has such a rich world, has enough characters to derive from. You just kind of get to continuously tell a story. Like you even have a movie 20 or God, what are we looking at now? Like 40 years later that you like. You're like, oh, I like this version of it.
And it even ties
So-
into the main story, like
Right.
like pretty
Right.
importantly, I guess.
Yeah.
It's not even a
So
spin-off,
anyway.
which there could be literally countless spin-offs.
Countless. Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you want to know a fun fact real quick?
Yes.
R2D2 originally, dude, it would be great to have the original script. I'm sure it exists somewhere, maybe.
Maybe.
But
It's been burned,
R2,
too.
R2D2 actually spoke, and he would say words, and he was really vulgar, but they took it out, but they left it in on set, so when they were like shooting all the stuff with C-3PO, it was like his reactions to like the swearing. It would be
hilarious.
the actor doing the running the lines and being like, like we're in fucking trouble, and then like C-3PO being like, oh geez, like reacting to it. So I'm like, that's pretty cute.
That is kind of cute. Yeah, actually, that adds I kind of like that.
Yeah.
No
I mean, we can talk
wonder-
about a lot of people getting fucked over in in this movie for money wise and everything. But
I just gotta
anyways.
say, too, same great. Like, I really thought I remembered Princess Leia being much more important than she is. Like,
Right?
she's very much just kind of just there because they, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like in this one, in the sequels, she's like a little bit more of a substantial role, but like she's
I mean,
important because she's.
I feel like they've made her pretty independent and strong, which is cool. Like it's like her and Han's relationship doesn't really exist, but it totally like it's the seeds. This movie really does like
It plants the seeds
pretty
for
well.
sure,
Yeah.
for sure. All right, let's see if we can hear this. Right,
Old Travis.
see if you can hear it. Have you read it yet?
No.
All right, well, let's see if this is the time.
Hey guys, or should I say Star Wars haters. I haven't watched the original Star Wars since I was a kid, and I have to admit I liked it more than I thought I would. I was impressed by the 1977 special effects and the creative characters, robots, and creatures that fill this far, far away galaxy. So my question today is, by John Lucas starting the series on episode 4, do you think that helped the success of the series so much, or do you think a traditional start at episode 1 would have worked as well? Thanks.
Oh. I heard
Travis.
it. That was great. Thank you for calling in.
Thanks.
I want to know, you saw it as a child, Travis? Let me know. Did you see it in theaters? I'm interested to know if you saw it in theaters.
How
and
old is
also,
Travis? He's not that old.
no, I thought, I don't
Dude,
know now. Now I've got him on the spot. He's like 65. I don't, no, it's not.
My
He's not.
parents-
No.
My parents
But-
were only 3 years old when this came out.
I know. Well, dude, yeah, your parents.
But I'm saying
were-
to see it in theaters,
But
you
it-
have to at least be like
Right.
55
Well,
at least.
Yeah, and that's my, yeah. I wonder if my parents. I gotta ask my mom. I don't know if she's seen it. She saw it in theaters because she's like 53 right now, so she was born in like 63.
I don't know. Well, this movie was never supposed to
I don't know
be fucking episode 4 until the 90s.
Right. And that is so. I like that question, Travis. I think that it's actually unique. That is, again, I will reiterate.
Yeah.
I feel like that's when they took a chance and they were like,
It
let's
is.
do something completely different instead of making sequels off of the third one.
Yeah, and prequels were never really, and honestly, prequels were really never that much of a thing. And so it was like, especially like you said, Jordan, taking this movie that's so iconic and being like, oh yeah, well this is the 4th one now, fuckers. I'm going to make 3 more leading all the backstory leading up to that shit. And so the hype, because we were alive for the hype, and I remember the hype.
Dude, I
remember the hype for Phantom Menace. And I saw the second one in theaters.
Dude, I think I went as a Jedi for Halloween or something in like 2000.
We all
Like,
had lightsaber toys.
I might have. Yeah, I had. I remember having a lightsaber, and I think I'm like, now that I'm like thinking back on it, I don't quite remember. Childhood. You like don't remember those things very well.
Repress a lot of
can't-
stuff. I didn't. Yeah.
And when I say as Jedi, I think my mom probably just gave me like a robe, and I had a light toy lightsaber.
We're
Because
poor. It's like here they painted. You painted the broom
Right.
blue, and
Right. Maybe even painted my face. Like I think I might have gotten my face painted like Darth Maul,
dude,
like the fucking
you look
zoo
like
or something.
Darth Maul.
But dude, thanks, man. Yeah, Darth Maul's pretty cool, man. He's a fun guy.
Yeah.
But he's got the two lightsaber. That's pretty dope. But everyone liked this. It was a huge cultural phenomenon. And I think it's funny that they tanked it, but they kept it alive still to this day, which is kind of cool. It's like because everyone hated the prequels when they first came out. That's all I remember is hearing like they ruined the series, and then now there's people have softened to them. But
I honestly, and I don't know. I don't want to go back and watch them because I'm interested because I think the storytelling is probably fine, and the world building is probably like again the strong points of the series of like the world building and like the council and like the Anakin Skywalker like falling to the Sith Lords and all that shit. Like that's all interesting, but I think what I remember hating about the originals is like the actual quality. Like they look flat, they look grainy, they are not, because they're all shot on green screen practically. The CG does not hold up. They're very early digital. Like they were taking a lot of risks, and for that, I do appreciate that, because it's like for big studios to do that, like they wouldn't do that these days. You know what I mean? I feel like they only do it a couple times. The closest thing I've seen lately that's not a massive franchise that they're making into a massive franchise is like Avatar. You know what I mean? Like they made the one Avatar movie, and now they're making like 1 billion of them off the back of it, and a video game and all this shit. And it's just like, I don't know, you don't really. And I guess these days they keep going back to the well. We're getting a lot of sequels now that are like 30 years after the original.
That's always been our problem too. I mean, that really is, to Hollywood's credit, been their downfall. Is dipping back into the well. If something, they feed on that nostalgia.
Yeah.
Which,
well, they're like,
which
what made money will make money again.
Yeah,
for sure.
At least once. Like it's rare to have a sequel flop.
Yeah.
It's not guaranteed that it'll do better than the original all the time, but for the most part, like historically and statistically, a sequel does better than the first one. But if it stays relevant and you can get a third one out of it, is harder and different.
If you got the guts for it, though, I will say if you enjoyed this, dude, Empire Strikes Back is pretty fun. Like I really liked Empire Strikes Back for the most part.
And we have our if you like this movie, watch this movie, and it's kind of like this is like the only movie that's like, if you like this movie, just watch one of the, I'm sure there's something else out there that was created for this universe that exists. That's amazing.
Go watch.
But
fucking
right.
Go watch.
We'll do it right now. I'm stopping.
David Lynch's
Dune. Oh yeah, David Lynch's Dune.
That's If you like this, watch this. Sci-fi setting, same era, cool art design, a little bit lost in the weeds with its like trying to adapt an insane book, and the philosophical and weird elements of it. But dude, I prefer Dune 100 times to this. I'd watch the original Dune on repeat.
Oh, me too.
Instead.
Yeah.
But
no, because at least in the original Dune, like the back end is a little rough, but it's like it's got, because that's all I care about when it comes to sci-fi. I love a rich texture. That's it's like Blade Runner. It's got such a dope world, and it's like everything exists as grounded reality, and that's why I respect this. But it's like Dune. It has that. It really. It's like its design is the best out of them all.
Epic sci-fi.
It's better than the new ones. Like Denis Villeneuve like strikes a decent balance, and he makes it fantastic. But it's like the original.
He makes it a
Dune
much more palatable movie.
So much.
But the
right,
original
it's a lot
Dune,
more palatable, and it's like.
Yeah, the original Dune's art design. It is. It's so you could fucking taste that movie, man. It's great.
Yeah.
Personally, I mean, it's not without its flaws, but I really do enjoy it. Before we're wrapping it up, I think we both landed on Star Wars has got some pros, got some cons.
I think but before we watched Star Wars, I was like, not looking forward to it. I was kind of just like, I was whatever, not looking forward to it. And now I'm happy to say that I've seen this again. And thank you, Chet, out there. I hope you listen to this podcast, because you were a homie and we watched the VHS in your basement, and that's a shared memory that I enjoy.
That's
and I
nice. You guys have a lightsaber duel?
Oh, totally, dude.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
Chet, I hope you listen to this. Love you, miss you.
Yeah, bud.
What was your favorite part of the first one, though?
I know, right? I knew that question was coming.
Because there's a lot to like.
It's like the cantina. The cantina has got, that it's just got the cantina is the most like American Western style shooting that you're getting, and it just looks fun, and I like it's kind of fun to have like the brooding and stuff, but it's like faster than I thought and kind of not super important. It's like, I mean, they clearly, that's when they meet Han Solo, but it could have just been, easier. I don't know. And it's like, for how rich the texture is and everything, everyone's kind of just the background character. So, they interact with somebody really quick and it's fast, and it's not like that scene needs to. I don't think it needs to be flushed out more or anything. It's like it serves its purpose perfectly. But I don't know, probably the cantina scene. Maybe Jabba the Hutt. That was pretty dope when he showed up. No,
the CG Jabba the Hutt. Yeah.
That's so trash. That CG Jabba the Hutt made me.
That scene.
I literally was wanting to turn it off when I saw him.
The scene does not need to exist either. There's they cut it, and it's just like you already know because they're trying to be
explains it. Yeah.
Like Han Solo's in debt to Jabba, and it's like you know already, man. You don't need to have a conversation between the two.
And Han's like in debt to a lot of people. That's what's kind of fun. I don't like having Jabba there, and his CG really is what I call it. It's like because I'm sure in the second one he shows up, right, and that's where Leia's like in the slave outfit.
That's the third one.
That's the third one. What's the second one then? I don't even know if I've seen the second one.
The second one's like the best one, man.
I know you keep saying they go on Hoth and he like sleeps inside the Tauntaun, right?
Yeah. And yeah, it's pretty good.
Well, on that note, what's your favorite part?
I don't know. I thought the sequence attacking the Death Star near the end was cool, just because I like the way they shot it, like in the cockpits and like the TIE fighters and like flying on the surface. Like I liked the surface. Like I like the looks, the weird blocky space, the white blocky spaceships that these movies have are kind of fun. I thought it was kind of fun. I got a good laugh mainly because it's just like I wasn't expecting it. Is Darth Vader flying in the ship behind them? Like why?
Yeah,
like he's like a general. And, but he's just like. Well, I'm gonna get in there and get it done myself.
I know.
And then
I thought that was funny
so
too.
he could survive when the ship blows up, But I just like, why do you do that? What? I guess, but I mean, Darth Vader, I guess, is a get in there and get his fucking hands dirty kind of guy.
I read, they kind of do explain that, right? Because he loves to fly TIE fighters or some shit in the first one, or in the what are technically first one, the prequels.
But in this movie, he's just Darth Vader. He's not.
No, and
he's not
he's
Anakin.
There.
He's not no one's dad. Like that was never a fucking thing when this movie came out.
Right.
So, and I think that's the thing I don't like about this series. Again, is like all the retconning. Like and then you find out later that this was actually this all along, and it's like, well, but like it was never planned that way, and you're just trying to make it seem like it was. But it's like, Leia and Leia and Luke are brother and sister, and it's like. That's totally unnecessary.
And it makes it creepy as fuck too, because it's
that's the thing. They ease off of it in the second one, because by the second one they probably already knew they were going to do that, and they were like have Han. But in the first one, it's just like, she's a cute princess, and maybe, but then it's like, no, it's his sister. You know what I mean? And then it's like his twin sister, but it's like I don't know. There are no seeds for that, and just like let's just build upon it.
That shot of Darth Vader wasn't. They went back and redid it to have him fly away. Like whatever happened, I can't remember. He gets spun around, and it's kind of funny that they did that because it's it totally sets it up where he's gonna live. Yeah. But it would have been better if they left it ambiguous where he could have blown up and died, but then he could still have lived because he was outside of the ship. But
yeah,
I don't know. Yeah.
That's Star Wars.
I know. Yeah, it's Star Wars. It's kind of like one of those you know it. There's no human being in America that doesn't know Star Wars, so it's kind of just there it is.
You can't escape it even if you wanted to.
Right.
But it's interesting because this time around, like you said, I was not wanting to go back in, but I've kind of fallen into it a little bit, and I'm searching now. I'm searching for that Star Wars content that's gonna because I feel like I have an itch now that it can't be scratched. Because I'm I want to like a part of this more than because I keep not liking it very much. And so it's like I said, I downloaded Knights of the Old Republic and I was excited to play it, and I played it a little bit, but then my Switch broke, and so now I'm fuck.
Yeah.
It's things like that. It's I'll probably watch the newest trilogy just so I can say I've seen every one. You know what I mean?
Why I just totally I'm oh yeah, duh, I forgot to mention this. So I wanted to mention Dark Star, that they planted a lot of seeds.
Oh yeah, if you like this, watch Dark Star. God, Dark Star's fucking great.
And if you like this, go watch The Hidden Fortress. I can't believe I didn't even mention that until now.
Yeah.
Duh, go watch the movie that that's the archetype for this movie. That it's literally it's like they've said that that's their influence. It's like, it's not like a secret. Like The Hidden Fortress. It's an amazing movie. Akira Kurosawa.
I know. I was gonna say I don't think I've seen all of Hidden Fortress. I just know what it's all about. But I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, I like so many of Kurosawa's movies like blend together. So I'm like, I'm thinking about it, and then I'm like, no, I think that's Throne of Blood that I'm thinking of.
Right. No, and Throne of Blood's like a bigger one. Throne of Blood and Ron, I always they're kind of more similar.
I can always keep Ron out of my head because it's in color. That's the one
no,
that's in color.
Right, that does help. Yeah. Ron's those ones are about. Those are both more about like nobility, and then this like the Hidden Fortress is more like peasants and stuff. But I mean, it does have nobility in it, but she's she's hiding. She's basically a princess fleeing, and same diff. So
all right,
there you go.
Okay,
there's film history out there. It's rich. This movie is now part of film history because it's 1,000 years old.
Yeah,
and we thought it was fun. I don't know.
I did honestly, despite me talking all the shit on it, I enjoyed it more than I thought I would, and I'm glad I rewatched it. And
are you happy now, Travis? We're not haters anymore.
We have our problems.
We're just like
we have our problems.
We're middleists.
Not only with the franchise being less than great, but like the fandom too is just so much. It's just so much. Yeah,
it's like they have a whole Disneyland made for them. So, but it's like, but that's the thing. Like we were saying, this had to have existed. A movie had to come out and do this, and so it's kind of fun that it's like a sci-fi.
What
opera.
Would like 9 Eraserheads look like?
I know that's the thing. But see, and that's what's cool though is like there is still like room for those weird movies.
Yeah, for sure. What movies would we have gotten from George Lucas if Star Wars wasn't a hit? Like
I know that is actually
I wonder what he would have like when he kept just trying to make like I just need to make something that's popular because I think that's all he wants to like. He's like I want to make something popular in sci-fi because he is a nerd enough. I know. I mean, obviously.
Well, dude,
his previous
one thing I'm interested by. I think if this flopped, he would have just probably. Well, that's the whole thing. It depends though. If he didn't have that financial boost to go and do a studio, I think he's always wanted to be hands off.
He's more of a producer type and like a big, he's like I'm a big ideas kind of guy,
right? I think that's what he likes
his
to do.
Story ideas like
right.
He workshops Indiana Jones or whatever because apparently he did the story to that. I'm finding out.
It would be I know. Oh my god! And I know, dude. Welcome, welcome aboard. But actually, my whole life, I thought they were like buddy. I thought they were like on set. I thought it was like. It was their project together, and they like co-directed it, essentially.
Can I just say, why doesn't? I mean, he gets enough love, but like, Zemeckis should be more of a household name than he is, with like more than George Lucas, because they were all. I feel like those are the 3 guys of that era of like those type of movies, and Zemeckis is way better than both of them. I think.
Yeah.
All right, let's save that for another day.
I think it would be interesting if these movies flopped. What we would have gotten, and I feel like Spielberg might have gone a little more serious because he essentially was like gonna be like a Kubrick clone, but then the success of these, he kind of went down more of like a middle ground, family friendly
action adventure, go down the middle of the road kind of guy.
Yeah. So it would have been kind of interesting. I don't know, the landscape could have changed, but we've gotten some good movies out of it, and
I think so. I mean, some iconic movies certainly, and influential movies, which I think is important.
Right.
All right. Well, anyway, so we're moving on to more blockbusters next week, and I'm not pissed that it won, but someone
wait, what one? I forgot to look before
I'll tell
we started.
You. So someone suggested like I was gonna put more like we're gonna get more Spielberg movies with blockbusters, obviously, because he's the king of them, but I was gonna put more like '90s blockbusters. But
right. And you did.
Someone was like, I want to see some like 60s ones. I'm like, all right, I'm down with that. So I put up a bunch of like late 50s and 60s ones, and I knew this was going to happen. I put 5 on there, and I said,
no 10 Commandments.
No, I said it's the only one I've seen. I'm going to end up watching.
Oh, no.
And it is. It's Spartacus.
Spartacus. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Which I have not seen it in a long time.
Exactly.
And it's
I literally.
Kubrick,
Right. But That's yeah.
But
So
it's,
I
but
actually
it's him doing the
couldn't
blockbuster
remember.
thing. It's him doing the
Right.
paycheck thing. It's his least
Yeah.
Kubrick movie, but apparently it's still pretty great.
I'm excited to see it because I've never if I've seen it, I don't really remember.
Well,
I think I might have gotten it from the library and then.
Did you vote?
watched.
What'd you vote for?
I think we did. Was it Cleopatra?
You
I
didn't
don't-
vote
I
for
don't
Dr.
remember.
Zhivago, you fucker. I was gonna make a propaganda poster for it. I wanted to watch
You know,
Dr.
dude.
Zhivago because it's
I've
directed by
never
David.
seen that.
Neither have I, but it's directed
Yeah.
by David Lean, who did Lawrence of Arabia, which we watched and I really liked Lawrence of Arabia, so I wanted to watch it. You liked Lawrence of Arabia too, okay?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Lawrence
I
of Arabia was dope.
Anyway,
I
so
did.
next week we're watching Spartacus, so go check it out. We'll be back next week with that. Thanks for listening.
If you want to watch it on a streaming service called Plex that we would provide you if you join our Patreon, it is pretty dope because it's got like all of our movies on it,
Yeah.
so you can just keep right up. You don't have to worry about finding it anywhere
I keep
because half the time this shit is not streaming.
Yeah, I keep a Plex server, and I know that's come in handy because we'll buy the movie
Oh,
and put it on the
totally.
Plex so that we can all watch it. That are those of us that are intimate members of the film club and
And the people who are
Patrons.
part of our
Yeah.
Patreon is Kylie, Landon, and Thomas, and parents. So we respect you guys and we love you, and we'll be getting some more patrons soon. I'm sure of it.
yes, thank you.
I love it.
Cool. Thanks for listening. Tune in next week. Check out the Reddit. Check out the website, Instagram, Letterboxd.
Give us a phone call at 801-613-1501. I sneaked it in there right at the end because I kind of forgot.
Good
And
job,
now,
buddy.
if you call that, you can be like Travis, leave a voicemail, or you can just give us your thoughts and we'll read them on the.
All right, dude. May the
We
force
love
be
it.
with
We can
you,
keep-
bro.
We can keep you anonymous. I know, yeah. May the fork, dude. Use the forks, Luke. And then that's Simpsons. Simpsons did it.
All right, that's enough. Good night.
Alrighty, bye.